Okay, so after you've finished capturing and you've organized your files into separate bins here, just to make your life a little bit easier, you can see that I've divided up my clips into different bins. These little folders here are called bins, and I've named them. Okay, so I put all the clips that are of any one of these scenes into the appropriate bin. Okay, so I've put all the fight scene clips in there. Okay, so I can just easily, and all my end clips in the end scene folder. Okay, to create a folder, you just right click and choose new bin and give it a name. Okay, if I call this sequence, I can put all my sequence. The sequence is the timeline. Okay, you can name your sequence. I'm going to call this rough cut. Okay, and just drag that into the sequence bin. You can have more than one sequence. I've called mine rough cut because that's normally what your first edit is usually called a rough cut, and it's just a rough edit of all your scenes in a rough structure that you can refine and trim afterwards. Okay, but first things first, we've done all our capturing, we've organized all our clips. I'm going to start off with the chase scene. If you double click a clip, it should come up in the viewer. This is the viewer here. It's called the viewer, and if you look at the toolbar at the top, it indicates the name of the window that you're on. Okay, so that's what we're on at the moment. If I just click down, let's look for a file that we can edit, that we can have a go at. Perhaps if we go into the end scene, that would be the best one to start off with. Okay, so we've got a shot of this corridor here, and we're going to have our two actors burst out of these doors here. So once I'm on the viewer, if you press play, and the play button is the space bar, so push that down.
Rolling.
Yeah? Okay, go! Yeah, good. Yeah, good. Okay, so by hitting the space bar, you press play. You can also press this button here, but you notice this little this yellow little triangle with a line going down it. That's called a playhead. You can actually click on that and drag that left and right. And you can scan backwards and forwards in time just to review your shots. Okay, you notice there's a bit of a gap before the two actors start, before they burst through those doors. Okay, so if you want to make your first edit where they just burst out the doors, I'll just position it just before they burst out. Okay, so they burst out. What I'm going to do is, if you use the if you press the J key, you can go backwards. If you press the K key, that's pause. If you press L, okay, go. That goes forwards. Okay, so J is backwards. Okay, go. And L is forwards. Okay, so that's another way of positioning your playhead and playing back your film. Okay, but we're going to position the playhead just before they burst out the door. Okay, so if I press the J key and press K, okay, so I've got the playhead right on the frame just before they just burst out the door. But you can get more frame accurate positions for your playhead by pressing the the left key, the left arrow key on your keyboard, or the right arrow key on your keyboard. So let's have a look at that. So if you press the right key, yep, that moves at frame increments. If I press the left key, that goes back. That goes backwards. so you can be frame accurate with this. I've got the playhead right just before the door is about to open, and what I'm going to do to perform an edit is you press the I button, okay? And if you press the I button, what that does, it creates an in point, or you can press this button here. In fact, if you put your cursor over any of these buttons, it gives a shortcut. And for the marking feature, you press I. So press I, and what that does, it creates an endpoint. If I have a look here, you can see it looks like this little triangle with a blue line. That's our endpoint there. That's where our film's going to start. Okay. So if we play from the endpoint and look for an out point, so the two actors are going to sprint past the camera. So we're going to set an out point just after they leave the shot. Okay. So if I press the spacebar. Okay, they're just about left the frame there. I'm just going to press the left key just to get the male actor's leg in shot. Okay, I'm pressing the right key now just to move forward a frame until he's completely left the frame. Okay, he's still in, and there he is. He's completely out of it now. I'm going to set my out point here. So if I press O is to set the out point, or you can press the right hand side of this this button here on the right hand side. Okay, that's also the opposite to the in button. It's the out button. Okay, so if you press O, what you've done is, if you have a look at the viewer, you got your in point, you got your out point. The bit in between, the bit that's sort of highlighted white, is the bit that you want. And what you're going to do is essentially you're going to position that into the timeline, and this is the timeline here at the bottom. And there's several ways to get the clip, to get the edit into the timeline, and that's, you can either click on your image and drag it across to the canvas screen to the right, okay? And if you let go in any blank area, by default it will become an overwrite edit, okay, which is this red button here, okay? But you can perform other types of edits, and I'll show you that in a bit, but the main one is the overwrite edit. So if you just let go, you notice not only does the last frame of that video clip appear in the canvas screen, but also it's in the timeline, okay? So let's have a look at that first edit in the timeline. You notice there's a playhead in the timeline, which is pretty handy. You'll be using this quite a lot while you're editing to play back your footage. But if you click on that and drag that back, as you're doing that, you can see that you're also dragging. You can also preview the clip in the timeline in the canvas screen. Okay, so here the canvas screen correlates with the timeline, and you can see that the viewer correlates with the browser. Okay, so you can view your clips, and then once files are in the canvas, you can view them in the canvas screen. Okay, so if you drag this right back to the beginning, you notice you've also got a playhead here that's being dragged back. Okay, do the same thing here. So position the playhead right at the beginning of our clip. You remember that we marked the endpoint just before the two actors burst out the door. Okay, so this should, as soon as I press play, you should see them bursting out the door. So let's press play.